What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn, our producer, Kenny Stubblefield. Fellas, how we doing?
Can you say as always? We've been a little shaky in recent weeks.
It's kind of as always. It's getting a little loose these days.
Yeah, for sure. Except for Kenny. Kenny's always there.
No, Kenny's the mainstay.
No wiggle room with him, brother.
Kenny is the Gruden grinder.
Yeah,
I like that.
He really is. I'm doing well though, brother.
Good.
I am doing well. No complaints. I went to Italian Fest this weekend.
Yeah, how was that?
Fun. I brought Myers out. Myers enjoyed himself. We were out there from about 3 to 9, give or take, and he didn't. I don't think he cried once. I think it was food, fun, and sleep for him. That's all it was. He was phenomenal. He was great.
It's impressive because I think I might have cried like 3 times if I was out there for that long. Myself, I would have cried.
Yeah. I was sad I couldn't go this year. Me and Gabe actually met up there last year, but I was at the lake this weekend with the family, so I did not make it to Italian Fest, unfortunately. And I think I actually knew somebody that had a tent this year, so like I would have had a way better setup, but couldn't make it. We were at the lake Wednesday to yesterday, so we had a long.
That's when I met your wonderful fiance.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
And by the way, you know somebody. I don't have a tent, but I know plenty of people who have a tent, and they're very generous. So you gotta like even then. I had a tent you could go to.
Yeah, but we didn't even know each other were there until like 9 o'clock.
And you know who else I got to see this weekend? Shout out to Bluff City Media. I got to see Rob Fisher kicking it.
Let's go.
Kicking it like FIFA, as they say, or as I say. he was hanging out. He I guess he participates in a tent. They won. I think they won top prize for their tent in general, like the setup,
just the tent, just
what
the
they
vibe.
were serving, all that. It was nice. A nice place, nice area.
Shout out Rob. Need to ask him about that. That's cool.
They had the best bar situation. I'll give them that.
I was about to say that sounds like a full-on vibes award that they won.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, if you know Rob, vibes. That's Rob and vibes
go together.
Rob is the master of vibes. That is true. He is a vibe master. He is.
Kenny, any
just watch the show, watch Night Court every week, and you'll notice the vibes. The vibes are flowing freely. Immaculate, as they say. My weekend was tough. My daughter was sick all weekend, so we were stuck in the house. So a lot of fun. She has not been this sick in a long time. She finally, we called it she came back from the land of the dead today. So she's on the road.
Kind of sickness?
Flu, strep, all that.
All of them.
Throw up sickness?
No.
Okay.
No. Sweet Jesus.
I honestly I can deal with like the upper respiratory, throat itchy, throat hurt, that type of thing. I can deal with someone passing that on to me. I don't like it. Yeah. But I remember growing up, whenever like my family, someone got like the stomach bug. Oof. That's the one I cannot deal with.
Yeah.
Like if you have it, I don't even want to be in the same vicinity as you because that is the worst thing ever.
I've never had it. Never.
Stomach bug? Stomach flu?
Nope.
Consider yourself lucky because the first time you have it, you're going to be a miserable human. I
have not thrown up in 17 years.
Dude, that literally sounds like straight out of Semi-Pro, Jackie Moon.
Yes.
The local PBS did a documentary on him. Like that's what that. Do you ever been hitting the jejunum?
I have not been hitting the jejunum or the armpit. For those that know, neither one.
You really have not puked in a 17 years span.
10 years old, and it was from a migraine. Like it wasn't even from like any, eating bad food or anything like that. It was from a migraine 17 years ago.
God bless.
That's I don't know how to feel. I mean,
yeah, I
guess that's healthy.
To me, it says he hasn't lived life at all.
I don't drink enough alcohol. That's
at all.
You're saying go get that 0.22 BAC all over yourself just so you can live life.
I only
good living.
I only got close to puking from alcohol one time, and I was probably 15 or 16, and I was bad.
Were you drunk or was it just like a shot of nasty?
Oh no, I was like, it's the only time I've ever like had spotty moments in a night.
Yeah.
And like I think I stood over the toilet dry heaving for probably like 30 minutes.
Oh, so that's probably what keeps you from drinking. You probably don't. Is that one of the major nights where you're just like,
no. That was like so young that it was just like, oh, that was funny. Let's do it again tonight.
I almost died.
Yeah.
I almost died last night. Let's do that one more time.
Yeah. I was passed out in a bathtub for like 6 hours.
Good God.
With water in the bathtub. Like it was hot, and then I woke up and it was freezing cold.
Who put you in the bathtub?
Who put you in there with water? You could have drowned.
Myself put me in the bathtub with water.
How much water was in the bathtub?
A standard amount, like a standard bath amount.
A standard amount. Enough to drown in if you slip down.
Yeah, 100% enough to drown in.
That was dumb as hell of you.
Set the scene for us. Why did you get in the bathtub?
I mean, I have no idea.
Did you have clothes on?
No, not in the bath. No.
So you sat in. How did your skin look when you got out after 6 hours?
I don't remember because it was like 5 a.m. when I woke up.
You were about as pruny as possible.
I had to have been.
Your skin was about to fall off your body by the time you woke up.
I mean, I'm saying this water went from scalding hot to frigid, like hypothermic levels of cold. That's how long when I was in the bathtub.
You woke up at 5 because you were about to die.
Probably.
Like your body core temperature was at like 83.
Probably. And I remember this, like I didn't even dry off. I just got out, I put a pair of underwear on, and I just passed out.
I've done some dumb shit in situations like that. That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Crazy, bro. I've known Christian.
I've heard of passing out in the bathtub because it's like, okay, if that like I would put someone in the bathtub if they, at that age, if they're just drunk beyond measure, puking all over themselves. I'm not putting any water on that person.
Yeah, nobody.
That is a bad idea.
It was self-induced. Like there was no. I think everybody else was so drunk that they didn't.
Nobody was paying attention. Nobody.
Didn't even register.
People were probably peeing next to your lifeless body there in all that water.
100% happened. That definitely happened.
But
I think I was
body like flailed out of the tub with a bunch of overflowed water and
just.
It is no wonder Christian does not drink. That is the craziest drunk story I've heard. There are
crazier ones, but
that's way up there for me.
I think for us three, that may take the cake.
I've seen many crazier ones than that. But yeah, like I said, I think we were like 15.
Where death was imminent because you were about to die.
We were playing beer pong. We were just at one of my friend's house. There was like 5 of us, like all dudes. We were just hanging out, got a couple cases of beer, and we were just getting drunk. We played beer pong with beer in the cups.
Oh,
yeah. It's just bad. It's just dumb. It's why you put water in them. It's just dumb. And we played probably like 7 to 10 games somewhere in that region. And I just remember like smacking the bed. One of my best friends, like dads, came up there because we were being too loud. And like I was dropping F-bombs while he came up there. It was like the first time I ever cussed in front of an adult in my life. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I never got that drunk again. I mean, I drank after that, but I never got that drunk again. I
remember as a kid, not as a kid, I should say, like when I was in high school, we played battle shots with real shots. You ever played Battleship with shots?
Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. And then we went sledding because it was nice and it was winter outside. One of our buddies, it was probably 19 degrees. He fell asleep outside. Fell asleep outside in 19-degree weather.
That's worse.
Yeah.
That's worse.
He luckily did not get hypothermia because he was a little bit more bundled up than we thought he was. So that was nice.
Yeah,
but it wasn't me.
It wasn't you.
I wasn't the one.
A buddy that I knew. A buddy that I knew back in the day. A buddy. Yeah.
Right.
So there's my almost puked but didn't puke story. So
almost died. Almost slipped into 3 feet of water.
Hey, it could have happened, but I'm still here, still kicking.
I'm glad you plugged the drain too. Like you went out of your way to plug the drain.
Definitely. Bro, the water stayed in the tub. It didn't go anywhere. The water level did not drop. The only thing that dropped was the temperature.
Good Lord, man. That's bad. That's bad.
That's crazy.
I've seen people like run water over themselves, but not like you purposefully plugged the drain so you could sleep in 3 feet of water.
I want to say, and this was so long ago, it's hard to say, but I want to say this was probably my thought process. Like if I feel bad, whether that's like sickness or whatever, like a shower is usually my cure.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine in my head, I'm thinking a shower is the cure, but I cannot stand up to take a shower. So this is the best alternative to that is taking
Imagine
a
drunk
bath.
you trying to find the bubble bath in there.
Yeah.
Try to get some bubbles in
like,
there.
okay,
Making yourself a little bubble mustache, bubble beard.
Just in case anybody comes in here and little buddy is floating, we need to cover this bathtub in bubbles.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He said little buddy is
little buddy. Your
If
right hand man.
If you're a man and ever taken a bath, you know exactly what I'm speaking of.
Yes. All right, I think is that enough of that? Are we good?
Yeah, I think
that's
we're
enough
good.
of that. We're now we're talking about little buddies.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's move on.
All right, let's talk a little bit of University of Memphis. We do not have a ton tonight, so if you were tuned in strictly for University of Memphis, I can go ahead and assure you this is probably going to be a pretty quick segment, and we're going to move to the hot three relatively quickly. But there is something that we want to start off with that we did not get to cover last week because we were not recording for Memorial Day. PJ Haggerty has decided where he will play next season, and it'll be at Kansas State. And finally, we get to put this conversation to bed. We've been saying it for what feels like a month is, okay, we don't have to bring up PJ Haggerty anymore. Well, here we go. He finally has a destination. He has landed somewhere, which, like I said, is Kansas State. So how do we feel about this? And are you guys as happy as me to move on from this ongoing conversation?
We finally got the trade all the way through. Like all of the, we have Doug McDaniel, Naquan Tomlin for Tyreek Smith and PJ Haggerty. It's all set. We're good to go. I think both sides come out looking okay. You know what I mean? Although Memphis loses PJ Haggerty. No, but in all reality, I just look at the situation as a major miscalculation on the side of PJ Haggerty and his father. And I don't think it's unlike what we talked about a little bit ago, probably a month or two ago with Nico Iamaleava. These fathers and these people that are way too close to the situation need to step back every once in a while and let real professional agents take over. And the reason this was bungled so bad is you could imagine a scenario where PJ Haggerty gets into the portal immediately after the season and finds a good landing spot. But the problem with what he did, he gets in the portal 5 days before it closes, uses Memphis as leverage the entire time, a $3 million offer or whatever the hell it was, and does not commit anywhere because he's going through the NBA Combine. So by the time you get done and withdraw your name from the NBA Combine, you have very, very limited landing spots. You just do. And sometimes there have been scenarios in the past where people get desperate enough to pay you a lot of money. But I don't think there was anybody desperate enough to give him what Memphis was going to offer him, $3 million plus. And Kansas State swoops in last second. It feels like since they went to the Elite Eight, they're just throwing, I hate to say it, they're just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah.
Look at the Coleman Hawkins situation from last year. So they threw him, $2 million plus $500,000 in incentives. And that was really the only place that was there for him at that point. Memphis had pulled their offer. NC State had pulled their offer once Darian Williams signed there. Ole Miss was out of it. So I just feel like he bit off a little bit more than he could chew. And at the same time, they managed the time poorly.
Yeah.
It was just not managed well start to finish.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, neither one of us, when PJ entered the portal, blamed him for leaving. Like we said, if he can go make more money and this and that and, go play for a high-level team, so be it. Like, it's not a bad move on his part. The bad move is going in this late when there aren't any variables that you can control, because at this point, most spots are filled. Most of the money is allocated, and it doesn't make sense to go anywhere else because there's so few options, and you have somewhere that's trying to already give you a pay increase. You have the continuity with the coaching staff. Like, it didn't make sense to leave this late in the cycle. If he leaves right after, as soon as the window opens, you go, okay, whatever, we'll see how it works out. We'll see what he gets money-wise. We'll see what teams get involved. But this late in the cycle, like, you can't even get a litmus test for what the true interest and what the true dollar amount would have been. And that's what makes the situation so weird and mishandled, like Gabe is saying. And it goes back to the bigger conversation. You mentioned Nico Iamaleava. It's similar. It's just so hard for people that are too close to the forest to see the trees to make sound decisions in a time like this. And I think another point on it, and we talked about this on your show last week, Gabe, if there was bad blood between him and Memphis and Penny Hardaway, and that's why it happened this late in the cycle, then that's the only way that you can really go, okay, now it makes sense. Like there's some reasoning that it happened this late. But, just from outside looking in, it doesn't appear like that. Like he posted pictures of him in a Memphis uniform, talking about how much he loved the city, posted pictures of him and Penny, around the time the decision was made to go to Kansas State. And it just kind of begs the question of like, why did this happen? What is the reasoning? If it was for more money, then it should have been done at a different time. If it was for a different role, then it should have been a different time. The only thing that makes sense to do it this late is if there was a fallout, and that just doesn't appear to be the case.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something that I think, like the Nico situation, and maybe not exactly the Nico situation, but the PJ Haggerty situation, this is like the perfect way to explain some of the mindsets from some of these players, whether it be college basketball, college football, or otherwise. Guys are getting into the portal with the hope, not the guarantee, to make more money. You know what I mean? The hope that they're going to get their asking price, not the guarantee that they're going to get their asking price. Now, some people would say, okay, well, he's on, he's at the University of Memphis. He is with that team until he gets in the transfer portal. And, anything other than that would be collusion, and people would be reaching out, and it would be unfair, and it's not okay. But how often do we see guys get into the portal with a no contact tag, knowing their landing spot and knowing that they're going to be at a certain place for a certain amount of money? So, like, I live in reality. You don't have to live in reality, but in reality, you can be at school A and school B reaches out to you and gives you an offer. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, then you get in the portal, then you leave. But this is what I wish players would heed my advice on. Stop getting into the portal for the hope at more money, for the hope at a better situation.
Yeah.
Go get that on the front end before you get in the portal and put yourself in an uncomfortable situation like PJ Haggerty did.
You have to protect
yourself.
To have
some guarantees on the table.
Yeah.
Before you make these types of decisions. And it does not feel like a lot of these guys think these things through well enough.
No, not at all. And I think another piece of advice that you can't really put it out there completely, but at the same time, it's like, just don't look at things apples to apples and oranges and try to compare it, because it's not. Just because you're an All-American and somebody else is an All-American and this is the price that they had and the price tag that they were given, it does not mean that yours is the same.
So quit pocket watching, in other words.
100%. Just because someone is in a somewhat similar situation to you and made X amount of money does not mean that you're going to get the same offer, because every situation is different. Every school is looking at different things. So if, okay, well, who was the guy was it the guy from Texas Tech that everybody was comparing him to? I think he was also
he's a forward. Like he's
right. That's what I'm saying. But they were both second team All-Americans, and I think his price tag was like $3.5 million, and so that's what people were pulling for PJ. And it's like different positions, different levels, different place. Like everything is completely different about these two players, except the fact that they were both second team All-Americans.
And what did Texas Tech just get to? The Sweet 16?
Yeah.
Whatever it was. JT Toppin, the guy you're talking about, helped lead them there.
Like, Big 12 player of the year.
He's Big 12 player. So like these are not, you can try and make it a realistic comparison because you were both second team All-American, but you have to look at everything else.
Yeah.
Right. And also Texas Tech looks at it as, okay, we could have some continuity. We bring this guy back and we have the bag to go do it.
100%.
So
let me ask you all this question, kind of shift the subject to Penny a little bit. We have talked over the last couple of seasons about one of the things that we've appreciated about Penny's growth is his ability to kind of walk through the drama before it starts, get through it, make decisions, make tough decisions, and move on. He did it with Tyreek. He did it with, some other players that will not be named. But with this PJ Haggerty situation, if the reports are true, PJ would have come back to Memphis if that offer, that guaranteed money that was offered earlier on, was still there, was still valid, if that was still on the table, he would have come back to Memphis. My question to you is, do you like the fact that Penny basically had said to PJ, if it's true, all these reports are true, thank you, but no thank you, we've moved on? Is that good to you?
Yeah, it sets a precedent. You have to. I mean, I hate to keep connecting this to a completely
Nico,
different
I was going to do the
sport,
same thing.
but it's the same. It's the same thing with Nico. Like we talked about it with Josh Heupel. Yes, maybe in the short term, in the next year, it's not the best move, but it sets a precedent for you cannot come here and hold this program and hold this team hostage. Like there's a certain way that we go about things, and there's a certain preparation towards the season that starts during the offseason, goes through the summer. Like, and you can't come in and wreck that and ruin all that. It's just, you have to put your foot down to an extent, and you have to draw a hard line in the sand, or a hard line. And I feel like that's something that Penny has definitely learned over time, because I think there were times earlier in tenure at Memphis when he didn't draw that line, and things probably did go a little bit further than they should have, and they ruined team chemistry, and they ruined relationships between players and coaches, and players and players and coaches and coaches. And so I think he's seen that, he's learned from that, he's clearly grown in that area, and is not putting anybody bigger than the team. And I think that's extremely important.
I couldn't have said it better myself. If we get to the middle of conference season and they're a bubble team, we're going to say what we need to say. Oh, they should have got PJ in the offseason. Just like Tennessee fans will say, well, damn, they should have probably just paid Nico because Merklinger ain't doing it for us.
Right.
Like that's how these things ultimately progress. But here's what I would say. And I'm not saying Penny and PJ still have a fine relationship from what I understand.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, Penny in this university showed the utmost amount of respect to PJ Haggerty for his time. They put out a very respectable offer, as high as they realistically could go. Yeah. I mean, $3 million is nothing to sneeze at. He's not even making that at Kansas State. But with all that respect that you divvy out, on the back end, PJ didn't quite respect your time. He didn't respect your offer enough to actually just take it. He went and tried to leverage it out to everybody else.
Right.
And eventually you just come to a point where, okay, if we're giving out all this respect, we have to have respect in return. And I don't know if they felt that reciprocal respect from maybe not PJ, but his family and the people behind the scenes that were helping him make decisions. And I have no issue with them drawing that line in the sand. Like I don't want to run my program this way. We want guys on campus early. We want to have our roster figured out. You're not quite respecting our time at this moment. If you don't want to come back, just don't come back. But eventually you have to stop giving us the runaround while you're flirting with everybody else.
Because what does that say to as a culture building part of the program? Like when you're trying to build culture, which is what Penny talks about all the time. You'll hear it on some podcasts that he's done with probably the greatest culture building coach of all time in college basketball. It's Kelvin Sampson.
Yep.
They talk about what culture building is. And it's so interesting to hear basically the ideas of respect and your yes being yes and your no being no. Yeah. Right. And so imagine what kind of message that sends as a program. If you are saying we are committing to you, Doug, right? Doug McDaniels, Sincere Parker, all these guys, we are committing to you, commit to us. But wait a second, there's this side piece over here that's been flirting with us for a long time, and now we're done with you.
Our ex
is flirting with us, and now we're gonna not take you, because that's what would have had to have happened at some point, right?
It would say anybody can be bigger than the team if they're worth it. Because and I'm sure Penny had this thought as well, and I think it shows a lot of growth and maturity for him as a coach. Is like, if I bring him back, and we discussed this as well, if we bring him back, and piece this roster back together, who do we have to get rid of? Who stays? I just don't think that works. I think you've pissed so many people off at that point. You've burned so many bridges. You've shown that this player is bigger than the team. Then it's all for naught anyway.
Right.
Because I think you take a player like him, and it's like nobody wants to play with him. And it's not a knock on PJ Haggerty as a person. It's just a knock on the situation. As promises were made to us. This is the direction that we thought everything was going in, and then everything completely flips. And I think that sends the complete wrong message.
And here's the other thing, and this is why I respect Penny's decision and like that he made it the way he did, because he knows, just like we know, if you pull out of the PJ Haggerty sweepstakes, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Right, because you're not going to be as good next year, but at the same time, I got to respect myself enough. So like, there's still going to be people on the other side saying it's stupid of him not to open it back up for PJ when PJ, potentially could have taken that $3 million and come back here. The team would have been better. But again, like, he's got to make a tough decision on the fly.
Yeah.
You're not privy to the conversations they have every day. You're not privy to the conversations he's had with other guys he's brought in. So this was very much a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But you know what Penny did? He looked at himself and said, I'm going to make this decision. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
And that decision was, we're done recruiting PJ. We have our backcourt and our team set. This is what we're rolling with.
Yeah.
So I respect that part of it very heavily, because in the past, Penny has been a guy who could be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I'm glad that he picked the decision, decided it, and said, this is what I'm sticking to.
2021, Amani Bates going home
to
Michigan with a back injury and then not playing.
How about what's the big from 23-24? Jordan Brown.
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
1 foot in, 1 foot out situations where it's like that does not breed confidence from your players in your program or confidence from the fan base.
In this situation, we grew up hearing all the time from our parents, right? 2 wrongs don't make a right. In this situation, 2 mismanagements don't make a management. Does that make sense? Like, PJ mismanaged. Penny, if you mismanage this situation and bring him back after all this nonsense has been going on,
doesn't make everything right.
It's not going to be successful. It won't end up going well, I don't think.
Right.
And so one mismanagement, we're not going to allow this mismanagement to dictate the culture and how we're trying to build our program. We're going to stand on what we stand on and move forward, even if that means that better player might not be back on our roster. But I love it, though, the response. You see Doug McDaniel's response on Instagram? Put a picture up of the Memphis Bridge. The Memphis Bridge is right. Schedule that game, please.
Yeah, and here is the thing, too. Like, what I just said, Penny knows what the response will be when PJ's not on this roster and they don't have as successful a season as they did last year in the out of conference. Yeah. He understands that. He still made that decision for the betterment of the greater good, the program, and stuck to it, which again, I implore people to look at his past with decisions like this.
Yeah.
And look at this situation and try and tell me there's no growth, because that's a lot of growth. That is a complete 180 from how he used to operate this program.
Totally agree.
No, couldn't agree more. But boys, I am ready to move on from that conversation, because we've had to have it for months and months, and
we're done.
Glad to be done with it. Glad to move on. Are we ready to get to the hot 3?
Let's do it.
All right, let's take a quick break. Be back on the other side with the hot 3.
Because we see everything Jaren does, good and bad, we downplay him because of the bad that we see.
Right.
But how many dudes in the league are scoring 20 points a game, or even the best player on their team? Leading scoring on their team like Jaren was, and you're still, all defensive player too. The all defensive team player as well.
What do you think? Do you think he resigns this year, or does he wait till next year?
Nah, I think he'll wait till next year. I think we worry about this way more than what we need to, bro. Like, nothing makes me think Jaren doesn't want to be here. And in a couple of years, when he's a free agent, there's no massive TV deal that's going to spike free agency where everybody's got the max to sign, right? Bad teams will have cap space and the good teams won't. And I don't think Jaren's going to leave Memphis to go to play for Washington. Like, I don't think that's happening, you know what I mean? But for Jaren's sake, I don't think he wants that type of pressure. I don't think because Rudy Gobert got it, I don't think Jaren's going to want the level of criticism that's going to come his way, locally or nationally, if he gets that Supermax deal.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. Looking for an alternative to alcohol or conventional medicine? Check out Ounce of Hope, a Memphis-based dispensary with 2 local stores in the Sanderland Center and on South Cooper Street. You can get all the products you need in a location convenient to you. Each store offers an intentional shopping experience with dedicated bud tenders to answer all of your questions, from product selection and mushroom blends to our personal favorite, the Delta 9 seltzers. You gotta try the Peach Buzz. Try Ounce of Hope at either one of their 2 Memphis stores or at www.ounceofhope.com for convenient products shipped right to your door. Use the promo code BluffCity for 15% off any order, excluding sale items. Cannot be used in conjunction with other promotions or discounts. One use per customer. I forgot the music. Hey, there we go. It's been a week since we shot this podcast, or we recorded a podcast, and I just completely.
Did you overdo it on the Delta 9 seltzer?
Dang it! You took mine. I was just about to say.
Let me show you.
Oh, yes, sir. Show us. Come on. What'd you pick up?
I got a Rice Krispie treat.
There we go.
With a little something. And
yeah.
I got
Look like bite was taken out of that.
It was. Then I got a couple little pre-rolls. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I hear you.
And then I'll say this: like, not that we don't do live reads on. We do a couple of live reads on other shows, but I got these Delta 9 gummies, Ounce of Hope Delta 9 gummies. This is my favorite product. This is a non-psychoactive. It's called Rebound. Basically, it's a CBD and curcumin. Have y'all heard of curcumin? It's a mix. It's a blend, and it's these rebound pills. And basically, like, I don't sleep well, dude. Like, I don't sleep really well. I wake up and I'm like, I think I snore a lot, and so there's mornings where I'll wake up and just be like, man, I need something to boost me. And so instead of coffee, which I drink all the time and get all jittery, this thing is called Rebound, and it helps me with my mental clarity, and it really does work. Like, it really works.
Yeah, so. It's not the one that gets you high. It just relaxes you, puts those.
Not even that. Yeah, it just kind of clears the fog. Like, I'm just kind of like,
what a time to be alive.
a little pick me up.
What a time to be alive.
All right, y'all ready to get to the hot three?
Of course.
Yep.
Let's go. We got NBA Finals, boys. It's the Thunder versus the Pacers. We've talked about this a little bit off air. Two teams make history. Two teams that are not in the salary cap. They haven't hit the tax or anything like that. And they are small market teams. Shout out to the Grizzlies. Gives them a little bit of hope, I think. But man, we got a pretty awesome matchup. We saw the Indiana Pacers beat the New York Knicks pretty handily, and then obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder just smoked Minnesota. They've lost 3 games, I think, or 4 games this entire playoff so far, and they're just the best team all season and have been the best team this playoffs. So it's going to be a fun matchup. But what are y'all's thoughts so far coming up Thursday, the first game?
I love this matchup. I think it's the best one we could have gotten. Now we'll talk about the other nonsense with TV deal and the TV ratings, which I don't know why everybody's so locked in on. It's so
who
dumb.
Cares?
They still have a $76 billion with a B, $76 billion TV deal. And guess what? After 11 years, when that runs out, they're going to re-up for a record deal again. That's just how it works. But I think what I love about this matchup so much is not only just like the parity that the NBA has found, right? 7 different champions in 7 years. These two franchises, don't give me the Supersonics 79 championship. These would be, we're going to get a first-time champion for either one of these franchises, the Pacers or the Thunder. So the parity's great there. But I think other people are discounting the other forms of parity we're seeing that is an escape from the norm in the NBA, right? Team building. You mentioned it already. Neither of these teams are in the luxury tax. For people that don't know, there has never been a matchup since the luxury tax has been enacted where both teams in the NBA Finals are out of the luxury tax. So you're finding some parity in team building, finding role-playing guys, good contracts, finding ways to maneuver around them. And I also think you're seeing parity in the style of basketball each team plays. Now, obviously, the Thunder are just overwhelmingly talented, best defense in the league. We know the Pacers are the best offense in the league. But here's what I mean by that. When we talk NBA playoffs and what style of basketball has historically prevailed, right? It's who's best in the half court, who is going to lock down on defense. We know the whistle's going to be, eaten by some of these refs. And we also talk about, even if you were a really deep team during the regular season, that depth doesn't mean as much in the playoffs. Those are the historical narratives that have been created around the NBA playoffs. Well, both these teams have escaped that norm completely. They were both top 10 in pace of play. Pacers were the fastest team in the NBA from a pace perspective. Both teams play with 8 or 9 man rotations, even in the playoffs, and that's been a help for them, not a hindrance. So I think we've talked about small markets and parity, and everybody has a chance to go win the championship, but I think we're starting to see some of the long-standing norms of NBA playoff basketball be broken in half. And I like that. I think that is a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, I know, just like you said, people talking about TV ratings and all this, and it's just like, okay, maybe it's not like a casual basketball fan's paradise, but if you love the game, like this is a great series. If you go back and look January 1st onward, these are the best 2 teams in basketball. I think the Thunder won 56 games, and the Pacers, I think, were like 47 or 48
they were first
games.
And second.
Yeah, they were 1 and 2. These have been the best teams since the beginning of 2025. So I think you get the 2 best teams in the league. I think you have up-and-coming superstars in SGA, who obviously just won the MVP, Tyrese Halliburton, who's been incredible in the playoffs, and then you have other players, especially on the Thunder, that's like these guys could be superstars with Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, and then with the Pacers, you have Pascal Siakam, who has
won a championship
with the Raptors, but never really gotten the credit that he deserved, because when he is on, he really is one of the better players in the league. But like Gabe's talking about, the depth on these teams. I mentioned Halliburton and Pascal Siakam for the Pacers, but then you got Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Mathurin. Like, they're a really good,
and TJ McConnell.
Yes.
Guys that are consistent as hell off the bench.
Very well-rounded, not the biggest names, but like, it's like, let's specifically pull out like Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard. Like, Andrew Nembhard, if you go look at what he's done defensively in the playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
It was like, I think Donovan Mitchell, he held to like 23% and 27%, and that's from the floor and from 3. Who did they play in the first round?
The Bucks.
The Bucks. Yeah, and Dame, it was about the same. It was like 22 and 26 or something like that he held him to. And then Jalen Brunson, it was 38 and 30. Like, he held 3 players that are very, very good, well-respected players to way below their normal splits as far as shooting goes. And then Aaron Nesmith, we saw what he did in whatever it was, game 4 or 5, when he hit 5 threes late in that game to bring the Pacers back to win it. So those 2 players, to me, have been like the key for them outside of Siakam and Halliburton. And then the Thunder, it's like, okay, the guys that I mentioned, Chet, Jalen, and SGA, but then it's Lou Dort, who is just a menace defensively, Alex Caruso, who's a menace defensively, Casey Wallace, who can come in and be a menace defensively. Like, they're just a very well-rounded, well-put-together team. And I think that's what Gabe is kind of pointing to. Like, are we coming into an era where you have to be actually good at building a roster again?
Yes.
And you can't just go get 3 superstars and put a bunch of role guys around them. Because personally, I always hated the super team era. It was fun. I mean, it was enjoyable watching LeBron and D Wade and Bosh, and it was enjoyable watching KG and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. And like, these are like dream matchups for teammates. But it's so much better looking at a front office like the Thunder and Sam Presti and the deals that he made, and with the Pacers as well. I mean, both
the draft picks he's made.
Both of these teams are kind of built on the back of Paul George. If you go back and look at it, like,
that's crazy.
Well, 3 of the 4 All-Stars that are going to be in this series were from Paul George trades.
That's what I'm saying.
SGA, J-Dub, and Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, like these are built on the back of Paul George. So it just shows a lot of competence in these front offices. I just talked about Aaron Nesmith. He was signed from Boston. He wasn't a guy that was drafted by the Pacers. Siakam traded for him. I think they used that Bruce Brown contract that they got from the Nuggets on it. So it's just like these 2 front offices have done a really good job building these rosters, not only for the present but for the future as well, with picks. So we're going back to a time where it's like, okay, you can't just buy the best team in the league. And obviously that's what the luxury tax was intended to do to an extent. But we're really seeing the fruits of it, at least for this year. Who knows if it's a one-off? Is this an anomaly, or is this the new norm?
Well,
but I like to see competency rewarded, and I think that's what we're seeing in this series.
For those that don't know, with the luxury tax has been a thing for 22 years, but they only had one apron where you reach that apron, you just pay whatever you need to pay. They have a second apron where you can get absolutely torn the hell up from that luxury tax payment. You could be paying 9 figures in a luxury tax
and it's not even the money side of the second apron. They can take draft picks away from you.
They can freeze draft picks.
Freeze you at the bottom of the first round and say that's where you're staying for the next 3 years. No. I mean, it's
too oppressive in my opinion, but also what they intended to accomplish, they have accomplished. It's been 100%. Successful. We can argue about it. It's been a successful venture, this new CBA.
You can say whether it's a good venture, but it's been successful.
Yes,
right?
What they wanted to happen has happened.
My question I've asked this question to numerous people today on the Bluff CBD Network. I wanted to ask you guys because I've still yet to hear an answer. Oklahoma City's favored to win this series, right?
Yeah, they're minus 750.
Like they're probably going to win and probably win going away. Like it's going to be tough for Indiana. Might get a game. They might get game 3. I think Oklahoma City's dropped the last 2 series. Has dropped game 3 by like a combined score of like 180 points, but they just take the day off and then come back in game 4 and 5 and say, yow, and get them. Are there any matchups at all for the Pacers that go in the Pacers' way or that favor the Pacers that would give them a shot to beat Oklahoma City in the finals? Is there a player, a matchup, a style?
I think it depends who they decide to guard Siakam with.
That's what I was going to say.
Siakam, if you throw Chet on him, I think he can overpower him a bit. I think he can stretch out a little bit more for Chet. I don't know who you throw on him, though. I don't know if they'll try Chet on him. So I think Siakam is kind of a walking mismatch for just about anybody who plays him. If you listen to Draymond Green says he's lost 2 particular matchups in his career. One of them was to Pascal Siakam. He said he got his ass kicked.
Draymond.
So there's that one. Tyrese Halliburton, I know. I mean, SGA is winning.
Lou Dort is going to.
Lou Dort is going to cover him. I mean, like I guess here's the other thing that could give you a little bit of hope if you're a Pacers fan. I think that Miles Turner has the ability to be more of an offensive threat than Rudy Gobert. Actually, I don't think that. I know that.
That's true.
So maybe he could give them some trouble. If you have Hartenstein way out on the perimeter on a consistent basis. So I don't know if there's any particular matchup I'd point to, but I'd say Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner have to be good for the Pacers to make this a series.
Yeah. Does the Pacers depth like bringing in Obi Toppin off the bench?
No, because the Thunder
can do the same thing. Like
they have depth, but they have small guys that they bring in, right? Like Isaiah
Jalen Williams,
Cason Wallace, Jalen Williams, yes, but
that's a hell of a backup 5, man. Yeah. It really is.
Oh, big Jalen, Jay Jalen,
Jay Arkansas Jalen.
Yeah, Arkansas.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm maybe Obi Toppin, possibly, but do you want to put if you're Indiana, do you put your finals matchup on or your finals? Success or failure on Obi Toppin? I wouldn't.
No. I think Pascal and Miles Turner have to show up, and of course Tyrese Halliburton has to show up. But I was reading this earlier, and this is kind of concerning because the Thunder won both of the regular season matchups, at home and on the road. Now, Aaron Nesmith missed one of the games, and Chet Holmgren missed both of the games for the Thunder. But here's what I saw earlier: head-to-head matchups this season. SGA Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. 11 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game. SGA versus the Pacers. 39 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 8 assists per game, and get this, 64% from 3 against the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, if that
he has a chance, by the way. I want to make this clear before we even get this series concluded, right? I think the Thunder are going to win, big favorites. I know SGA takes a lot of free throws, but we do have to really sit back and realize the rarefied air he has put himself into with this MVP. He has won the scoring title and the MVP. If he finishes off the triple crown, if you will, and wins a finals, he'd be the third player all time to do that. Michael Jordan, of course, did it 4 freaking times. Like, that's ridiculous. And the other guy's Shaq. SGA, Shaq, and Michael Jordan would be the 3 people to accomplish that. MVP, scoring title, championship. That's a different level of success.
Yeah. And just to close it out, and then we can move on. You're talking about him free throw shooting. I actually heard something today with, like, I think it was all the MVPs that have averaged over 30 points per game. He has the least amount of free throws attempted out of all of them.
Yeah, but in the playoffs,
it's
series. Get
but
this.
Still, I think he's kind of getting called a free throw merchant, and
sure.
it's not as true, especially when you extrapolate it over an entire season as some others.
Guess, okay, in this series, though, we want to have fun with this. We'll move on after this. In this series, top 3 guys in free throws made in these playoffs. Go ahead and tell me who the top 3 guys are.
SGA's number 1.
Yeah. Who's number 2?
That's in the finals?
No, in the entire playoffs, 2025 playoffs.
Jalen Brunson.
No. It's a trick question. Number 2 is SGA in the first half. Number 3 is SGA in the second half of games.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then I think 4th, you'd have Benedict Mathurin.
Okay.
So the top 3, if we're being, obviously I'm being facetious, but the top 3 would be SGA overall, and then SGA in the first half, SGA in the second.
Not bad.
That's so dumb.
Not bad.
All right. We talked about the intended design plan for the second apron of the luxury tax was to basically make teams have to build rosters and kind of create parity within the league. I think one of the byproducts and unintended byproducts potentially is dynasty building in the NBA. Last time the NBA had a dynasty was the Golden State Warriors, 2015, 16, 17, 8. How many they win? Like, they won 4 in a matter of 5-6 years. Do you think that does OKC have all of the ingredients in place to be a dynasty? And can they become that dynasty? Or is this luxury tax second apron contract roster building idea, is that going to stop Oklahoma City from becoming a dynasty in the NBA this year or in the next coming years?
I don't think so. I don't think it stops them because the biggest point is they're going to have SGA regardless. SGA is not going anywhere. That's the centerpiece. That's what makes everything go. So there is that aspect to it. Now, when you look at, we were talking about this pre-show, like Jalen Williams was all NBA third team. So that's gonna bring in a payday. Chet Holmgren, obviously still young in his career, but just with his abilities, even though he may not be nearly close to scratching the surface of his ceiling or potential, still probably going to warrant a pretty hefty payday. But outside of that, I mean, you look at, Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, like these aren't really players that are going to warrant massive paydays at all. So there's an argument to be made. You got to pay everybody and things are going to change and things could potentially look different. But A, you have SGA regardless. B, it's a really young core to this team that you could, in theory, keep intact. And if SGA plays anything like he did this year moving forward, like they should be in the title picture every single year. Because you got to think, they win 4 more games. I think they're at 82, I believe, for the year, which would put them...
No, 84.
84. So they'd be top, 5 all time in wins behind...
I think top 3.
2 of the Bulls teams and the Warriors team.
I think 1 Bulls team and the Warriors. They'd be
That's
or
it.
Maybe it's 2 Bulls teams.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Crazy.
So I mean, they're in extremely rare air, and it's like with how young they are, with SGA just now like reaching this pinnacle, like who's to say that this isn't that this is the best Thunder team that we see? Like they could go up from here potentially.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that they can be a dynasty, even with the aprons. Now, I'm going to say it for different reasons because I understand the common sense take would be, okay, by 2026, they're going to have to pay SGA $76 million a year, and Jalen Williams is going to be on a max, and what are you going to do with Chet? And you're going to lose guys along the way. But I'm for different reasons, I'm going to say they could still be a dynasty because, one, Sam Presti, it's almost like he knew this was coming.
That's fair.
They have 2 picks in the first round this season coming up in the NBA draft. They have 10 first-round picks from 2026 to 2031. Also, on top of that, you know who has yet to play a minute for the Oklahoma City Thunder? Nikola Topic, their 12th overall pick from last year.
Yep.
So they still have cost-controlled contracts. I don't think they'll lose everybody. They may lose a guy like Chet by the time this whole thing is over with. But for the next couple of years, they're safe. And then once they get to that point, they can make some tough decisions. But guess what? You can rely on a million first-round picks and develop just like you did with Jalen Williams, just like you did with Chet, just like you did with Case and Wallace. Like you still have that at your disposal. So I know that the general thought from most people is it's going to have to end because of how restrictive the CBA is. But I look at the assets they have,
it's so dumb.
And it's kind of hard for me to just completely write them off after 2026, 27 when they have to pay guys because they still have more than enough to replenish.
Yeah.
I just want to I'm so mad at whoever made the deals with Sam Presti to keep all of these damn draft picks. Like, how you're not supposed to be able to build a roster the way that they have with the talent that they have and have 10 first-round draft picks in the next 5 years, 6 years. Like, that's crazy.
12 in the next 6, and then the 5 following 10 first-round draft picks.
Yeah. He's a wizard, man.
And again, their first-round draft pick, number 12 overall last year, hasn't played a minute.
That's so
Nikola Topic.
That's so
and he was one of the best international prospects in last year's draft.
Yep.
So crazy.
All right, Kenny.
I'm pissed off. As a Grizzlies fan, I'm pissed off now. I don't like it. All right, let's go to the last one. It looks like we got a new chef in the NFL.
Himalayan pink salt, is that the overlay? You gotta love it.
Stefon Diggs and Himalayan pink salt. He got listen, you got to think Mike Vrabel's pissed off, right? Like, is he about to pull a Bill Belichick and be like, do not be a distraction, bro? Like, is this goes absolutely against the Patriot way. Right, like about to be OTAs, they're about to start mini camps, all this kind of stuff, and you get this video of Stefon Diggs on a boat with Himalayan pink salt and allowing
and dispersing it to multiple women. And
I don't know why they were putting the Himalayan pink salt up their nose.
Why don't they put Himalayan pink salt up their nose, Gabe?
Must be a new remedy.
But okay, for those that are trying to get the reference here. Stefon Diggs started dating Cardi B, the rapper. I think this beginning of this offseason,
right?
They were on a boat in Miami, and there was a video of Stefon Diggs pulling something out, and it looked pink. It was like a pink substance in a bag, and there's these 3 women around him, and he's like forcing them to call him daddy. So they called him daddy, and then he said, "Don't use all of it," and he handed it to him, and he missed OTAs the following day.
Yeah.
And so that's where the Himalayan pink salt comes in. We're trying to make a joke. Mike Vrabel spoke on it, and Mike Vrabel, you know him, he just handles it in stride. And it's just like, yeah, not ideal. But we're going to talk to him, and I believe in communication, and we're not going to tell you anything that we talked about behind the scenes. And he was at OTAs today. I know that. So I bet his agent was like, hey, brother, look at me in my eyes. Get to OTAs right now. You just caused a big fuss. Like you can't be caught with more Himalayan pink salt on a boat with Cardi B. We have to get you to OTAs to prove that you want to play football still.
Yeah, they did say they weren't cutting him. And Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels. It's Kenny said the Patriot way. It's not Belichick anymore, but these are guys that were integral pieces to that, right. And so it's going to be taken very seriously. You would imagine it's going to be handled very. I'm sure it's already been handled. That's why he is back. But a good look. And if you are going to venture out on a yacht with a lot of ladies and, potential unidentified substances.
Right. It's Himalayan pink salt.
Yeah. That's right. It has been identified.
It's been identified.
And you are...
They're actually cooking fish on the other end of the boat. You just didn't see it.
Easy. And you are, a player that's been a multiple time All Pro.
Right.
Been one of the highest paid receivers in the league. You probably at least want to make sure that nobody's videoing it because
he knew that. But here's what I don't get
from the angle of the
here's
video.
The thing, guys. He knew he was getting filmed.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
That's what I never understood about the whole thing. It's like, did someone film it and he thought, oh, we're just gonna stash that. No one's ever gonna see that video.
Yeah, because it was very obvious. I mean, they were right in his face. It wasn't like some CCTV footage caught this. Like it was somebody literally 2 feet away from him, like videoing this.
Her ex-husband is Offset from the Migos, and it's like, Stefon, like I know that like you're dating her and it's a certain type of lifestyle, but like you can't live that lifestyle like Offset did.
Yeah, you cannot live a rapper life.
You operate in different rules.
Yeah,
than someone who raps for a living, brother. Right. He could probably get caught on camera doing the exact same thing, and we would just laugh at it. It'd be on
nobody. It wouldn't even make
Shade Room or Daily Loud the next day. That's what it would be on. But like for you, man,
different.
You're gonna have to answer to the commish. You're gonna have to answer to the Shield about that, and that ain't the. It's a lot different.
Let me ask you a question, Gabe. As a former player in locker rooms, how do the players respond to this stuff? Do they respond, or do they like?
Dude, you're dating Cardi B, and you were on a boat getting called daddy with Himalayan pink salt. I bet half the locker room's like, hell yeah, dude.
Nice. Yeah.
But no, I think the serious ball players that want to go win are probably annoyed with that because you're missing OTAs at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's going to cause some rift in the locker room because they're still voluntary OTAs. So it's like he probably would have missed them anyway. But when you miss them and you're shown on a boat doing what you were doing, I don't know if that sends a good message to a brand new team. And by the way, for a quarterback in Drake May who's really trying to make a name for himself and step into that face of the franchise role, like there's a lot of people taking the offseason very seriously in New England right now. Right. And it could possibly, and I'm not saying this is what happened, could possibly send the message, does he really want to play ball? Is he or is he in it for the fame? Is he in it for the notoriety? Yeah. Is he more interested in dating Cardi B than playing ball? I'm not saying that because I'm not going to speak on anybody else's locker room. But it absolutely could be misconstrued, no doubt.
And he's coming off a torn ACL.
Yes. Also. Yeah.
So this isn't like.
To be fair, the day after that video was taken, he was at a field in Miami running routes and working out.
True.
So
yeah.
But they filmed that too. So that got filmed. Damn it, we're filming that. Damn it, like get that out quickly. Yeah. What do you think?
The agent took a private flight, emergency flight to Miami to make sure they had a professional camera to film that.
I'd like to put myself out there. I'll go film Stefon Diggs running routes with my professional camera.
What about the other thing? Would you do? Would you?
No, I'm good. I love my wife. I want to stay married. I'm fine. What is a locker room? How does a team internally handle that? Is there a fine? Is there like a punish, like a run? Like I don't understand it.
Voluntary OTAs. So literally what he is guilty of is missing voluntary OTAs. He is not guilty of failing a drug test. He's not guilty of possessing that substance by the police. There's nothing, to be fair, to Stefon Diggs.
Right.
He's just guilty of looking kind of ridiculous in the public eye. So I think that's a coach and a GM and an owner thing. Sit down with them and be like, so what happened? What's going on? Do you need anything? That's how you handle it. I don't think that's one of those things where
a punishment.
Anybody else in the locker room, one of your peers, steps out and has like a team meeting or a players only meeting about it. Like that's not the right way to handle it. I feel like that's a higher up. That's a head coach, GM. Hey, let's sit down and don't do that shit again. You know what I mean? That's what that is. I think that ultimately this is going to be a blip. But it was kind of funny in the moment. It was pretty hilarious in the moment.
And I mean, honestly, it was funny. And then
there was another video of Cardi B just shaking it right in front of him last night. I don't know if you saw that one.
I didn't see that one.
He was wagging her on the rear.
Hold on. What was that again? Do that again.
He was rearing back, both hands.
Playing the
bongo drum
in that thing, bro.
Wow.
All right. Kind of like earlier in this episode, let's go ahead and wrap this one up before it goes too far. we appreciate everybody for joining us this week. If you are watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. You can also do the same wherever you get your podcast, whether that's Apple, Spotify, or any other platform. Once again, we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.